I get what you're trying to say. You got married because of money, right? Don't talk nonsense. It's pretty clear, right? You're someone like me, a poor single mom. That's why you're still here even after your husband passed away. You're really annoying every day. I'm Mia, 35 years old, and I often hear snarky comments like this from Emma. My dad died when I was little, so my mom raised me on her own. Luckily, my mom kept working even after she got married again. So we weren't super poor, but we definitely weren't rich. Still, my mom was always happy and she worked hard for me. Because of that, I never really felt lonely growing up. I planned to start working right after high school, but my mom had been saving up for my college education. I really loved studying and wanted to go to college, but I didn't want to add more stress to my mom's life. She had worked hard to raise me and I wanted to ease her burden. Then, when my mom suggested I go to college, I was thrilled. She got married at 23 and had me at 25. In my third year of high school, when she was 43 and still healthy and active, she told me to follow my dreams. She said she'd be more upset if I gave up on my future because of money worries. Her words moved me to tears. I took on a part-time job to help pay for tuition. And because of that, I graduated from college without needing student loans. After college, I got a job at a big company. I worked hard every day because I wanted to make life easier for my mom. Within 5 years of starting at the company, I got promoted to an administrative assistant and my salary went up. I was able to treat my mom to trips and buy her the massage chair she always wanted. 2 years later, my hard work paid off and I was promoted again, this time to executive assistant. During this time, I got to know the president's son, Ethan, and we started dating. Eventually, we got married. People would congratulate me and say, "Congratulations, Mia. Be happy." "Yes, thank you for everything," I said, deeply grateful, and my mom was moved to tears. She was incredibly happy for me, and it was a really joyful time. But that happiness didn't last long. Just 2 years into our marriage, my husband suddenly passed away. He collapsed at work, holding his chest, and was rushed to the hospital. But by the time I got there, he had already stopped breathing. That morning, I had watched him leave for work, saying goodbye tearfully. I never imagined such a terrible thing could happen. The shock was so intense that I could hardly speak. It was unimaginable that both my mom and I would lose our husbands. I could only imagine the pain of Benjamin, the president who had lost his only son. He looked so alone and devastated, just like me. I kept working even after I got married, and as the executive assistant, I spent a lot of time with the president, especially during the day, so I could see firsthand how sad he was. But there was one person who didn't seem to be grieving at all: Emma. Because we lived together after I got married, I quickly noticed her behavior. Actually, Emma wasn't related by blood to my husband. Benjamin's real mom died when he was just 3 years old. Knowing it would be hard for a man to raise a child alone, he remarried when Benjamin started elementary school, thanks to a friend's introduction. No, if something happens to my husband, all his property will be mine. What are you saying? Ethan is gone. Lighten up, it was just a joke. I thought a little cheer might help everyone in these gloomy times. Please think about the timing and situation. You must be upset that your plans didn't work out. Now you won't get any of our husband's money. I never expected to get anything from the beginning. Do you really think I would marry a man like Ethan, who doesn't say much, unless I was after something? Stop talking to me like that. He was irreplaceable. Emma seemed to think I would leave as soon as my husband passed away, but I didn't. Benjamin was acting strong at work, but I could see he was pushing himself too hard. So I couldn't leave the house to someone like Emma. Plus, even though we'd only been there for 2 years, our home was full of memories of my dear husband. I wanted to cherish those memories for a while. You can't just forget feelings. The time I spent with my husband was happy for me. My husband once told me that Emma was more like a roommate than a mother to him. She was often out, and when Benjamin was away on business, she wouldn't come home until late. But my husband didn't want to worry Benjamin, so he didn't say anything. Emma was kind when Benjamin was around, but her behavior changed drastically when he wasn't. It was like there were two Emmas. When Benjamin left for work, Emma would see him off with a smile. I'm counting on you to look after Ethan. Of course, Ethan is precious to me too. Knowing you're there for him lets me focus on my work. Don't worry, just do your best at work. Thank you. Have a good day. But as soon as he left and the door closed behind him, Emma's smile disappeared. Ah, finally, he's gone. Now, where should I go today? Maybe I'll invite a friend to the movies. You're going out again? Yes. Is that a problem? Oh no. Just remember not to bother your father with unnecessary things. He's working hard for you. If you say something, he'll worry and won't be able to concentrate. So just quietly study at home every day, okay? I understand that was their daily routine, and it seemed like Benjamin didn't mind it once he got used to it. In fact, he felt more comfortable when he wasn't paid too much attention. As a child, he saw Emma as more like his dad's wife than his mom. Benjamin was always grateful to Emma for helping out when he was small, which allowed his dad to focus on work. Benjamin's company was passed down from his step-grandfather, and he was really good at running it. Under his leadership, the company grew a lot. Now, he's managing 5 businesses, each making millions of dollars every year. So Benjamin was always super busy. My husband used to tell me that when Benjamin was a kid, he hardly had time to relax at home. Seeing him tired from work every day, my husband didn't want to bother him with unnecessary stuff, like mentioning Emma. Plus, Benjamin didn't feel neglected, so there was no need to trouble him. He was okay keeping his concerns about Emma to himself. That's just how he was, laid back. He didn't seem like a typical heir to a big company. Did you ever get mad about it? Nah, not really. I was fine as long as she was home. It gave my dad peace of mind, and we always had plenty of snacks. My husband laughed it off, never making a big deal out of it. I love that about him. They weren't mean to me, they just didn't pay much attention to me. Sure, Emma would sometimes make snide comments, but I just brushed it off as typical mother-in-law stuff. She was often out doing her own thing, so we didn't see each other much, and her comments didn't really bother me. If my husband wasn't bothered by it, I didn't see a reason to bring it up. However, Emma's spending habits did bother me a bit, as I've always been thrifty. But since neither Benjamin nor my husband said anything, I kept my thoughts to myself. But after my husband passed away, seeing Emma splurging on luxuries while Benjamin was heartbroken made me uneasy. A man who was like a son to him had died, yet Emma showed no signs of grief, which made me even more upset. Emma, please try to support Benjamin. Even though he's acting okay, he's really feeling lonely, I pleaded. Why should I listen to you? What's your motive, huh? Trying to get into our family for inheritance? I never even thought about that. Well, Ethan's gone now, so why don't you just leave? I'm not leaving. Benjamin said I can stay as long as I need to. Emma gave me an annoyed look but didn't say anything else. She probably felt relieved knowing I wouldn't inherit Benjamin's wealth. But 3 years after my husband's death, Emma was getting more annoyed with me being around. Her sarcastic comments were getting more frequent and hurtful. Whether at home or work, I'm always with Benjamin. Emma seemed to think I was trying to manipulate him to get his money. It hurt to be seen that way, and I started questioning if it was right to stay in a house where my husband was no longer alive. I could feel the pressure of Benjamin's situation at work every day. Maybe it would be better for me to go back to living with my single mom instead of staying here and dealing with Emma's sarcasm. My mom is turning 60 this year, and last year marked the 3rd anniversary of my dad's passing. I had been thinking about my future when Benjamin suddenly collapsed. He was lucky to survive, but there was a good chance he would need care even after leaving the hospital. Things didn't immediately fall apart at the company when Benjamin collapsed because he had trained his successors well. However, I noticed a change in Emma's attitude. That man, God, he got what he deserved, she muttered. He's been so tight with money lately. What do you mean, tight with money? I asked. Our credit card limit has been reduced and our living expenses have been cut. Is the company in trouble? I don't think so, Emma, I replied. As it turned out, Emma missed her husband's 3rd anniversary ceremony last year because she was hungover from a wild night out, which Benjamin discovered when he checked the credit card bill. Even though Benjamin rarely checked Emma's spending, this time he did. Missing their son's memorial was too much, even for him. In his anger, Benjamin decided to limit the money Emma could spend. However, she still had enough for a normal life, so there was no need to complain. Benjamin himself mentioned that the company might be facing difficulties. Emma's absence affected him deeply, and before he realized it, things started to go downhill. I explained. Don't act clueless. You know it as well. All because we lost our only son. How does that justify jeopardizing the company? No, I honestly didn't, I replied, but Emma persisted. Even though he's not well, he plans to take it easy at home and live a long life. He's been telling people that the doctors said he could live to 100. That's reassuring. There's nothing good about it. If he lives that long needing care, it won't be a joke, Emma said, her nostrils flaring. Emma's angry rant about Benjamin calling him dull and annoying left me feeling uneasy. Who did she think had been paying for her extravagant lifestyle? Even if Benjamin's company was struggling, she could at least offer to help support him, I thought. And then Emma dropped another bombshell. So I've decided to divorce him. Pardon? Just think about it. The company might be in trouble. What if we end up in debt? It's smart to settle the property and leave before we run out of money. Are you going to leave Benjamin when he needs help? I can't handle taking care of an old man who's bedridden and broke. I'm going to take what I can before his will runs out and then say goodbye. Does that make sense to you? Emma's words, spoken as if she had a brilliant plan, filled me with disgust. However, just a week after our conversation, Benjamin's health took a sudden turn for the worse, and he passed away very quickly. He's gone too, I said, feeling overwhelmed. Just 3 years after my husband passed, everything seemed to go dark. I continued, my voice trembling. Benjamin's voice sounded so much like my husband's. Sometimes when we talked, it felt like I was talking to my husband again. Not being able to talk to him or hear his voice anymore was too much to bear. Oh, that man has gone to the afterlife. What perfect timing, Emma said, her voice almost gleeful. He still had assets left, right? His company didn't collapse yet. Maybe he died before getting into debt because of me. This means all remaining assets go to me. How fantastic. Emma's words, said with such heartlessness, made me furious. Even though Benjamin just passed away, all you can think about is money? I said, my voice shaking with anger. Ah, you caught on, huh? Well, tough luck for you. You're not getting any money from the family, Emma snapped back. I'd rather have Benjamin back alive than any money, I said, feeling tears welling up. Don't act all noble now. You're just putting on a show, trying to look strong for everyone, right? Even if you begged, there's not a penny to spare for you, Emma declared firmly. Even though Benjamin had passed away, it seemed like Emma cared more about money than anything else. It made me wonder how someone could be so cold-hearted. Thinking about it made me feel even more sorry for Benjamin, which just made my sadness worse. Fine then, you don't have to come to the funeral. Is that it? Only strangers are welcome, Emma said, her voice filled with scorn. I understand, that's how things are, I replied calmly, even though my heart was weighed down by sorrow. Emma didn't seem to grasp the reality of the situation, but I didn't feel like explaining it to her. Are you sure about that? Emma said sharply. Absolutely. Now that he's passed away, I, as his wife, am in charge, Emma declared with a sense of entitlement. So 2 days later, Benjamin's funeral took place quietly, with only close relatives present, honoring his wish for a simple ceremony. After the funeral, I noticed several missed calls from Emma on my phone, but I chose not to return them. Despite her attempts to reach me multiple times afterward, I decided to ignore her completely. Then one day, she unexpectedly showed up at my workplace. I finally caught you. Why haven't you been answering my calls? Emma demanded. Hola, Emma, how can I help you? I replied nervously. Still playing games. I got kicked out of the funeral home. You're the one who should have been excluded. I called you so many times on the day. What's going on? Well, you're not part of my family anymore, Emma. What? But you said only family could attend the funeral, so we had a family-only service. And then I asked Emma, who's now a stranger, not to come. No, the stranger here is you, Emma. What? When Benjamin got sick and was told he'd be bedridden, Emma served him with divorce papers. She probably thought since Benjamin was hospitalized, he couldn't file those papers. But I had already filed them, as Benjamin asked me to. So Emma is a stranger to us now, in name and in reality. Back then, Benjamin confided a lot in me. He told Emma that the company was in trouble and he might end up in debt. If that happened, they couldn't live their lavish lifestyle anymore. He suggested they live more modestly as a couple if Emma was willing to support him. But Emma coldly said, maybe it's better to split before you're in debt. 1 month later, Benjamin collapsed. Even after he woke up, he knew his health was bad. But he didn't tell Emma everything. He hinted that he might have to let go of the company and rely on her for care. Emma then suggested divorce. She probably wanted to divorce before he was seriously ill and get some money through a property settlement. But Benjamin, knowing his time was limited, had already donated most of his assets to charity and appointed new leaders for his companies, so there was hardly anything left for Emma. When he told her this, she was shocked. "So, I don't get anything." "Well, technically, it's not nothing. I left a few $100s in savings," I explained. "A few $100? That's hardly anything." Emma scoffed. Even though Benjamin had told me about this before, saying it out loud made me realize how determined he was. He probably didn't want to share any property with Emma. Maybe it was Emma's behavior after her husband's passing that made Benjamin so firm. "But there's still the house. If I sell that..." "Oh yes, please find somewhere else to live soon. I'm staying with Mom for now, but I'll move back eventually." "What are you talking about? You're practically a stranger. You have even less right to the house than I do. Like I said before, you're the stranger here, Emma, since you're already divorced. Plus, the house was originally inherited by Benjamin from his grandfather, so it's not considered for property division in a divorce. Why do you think you have a right to live there?" "Because when I married Benjamin, we legally adopted each other." "What? So I have the right to inherit Benjamin's property? Benjamin left me that house. It's hard to believe, isn't it?" The idea of adopting me came from Benjamin himself. When we got married, I didn't think much about it. I was going to be marrying his son, so in his eyes, I became his daughter. So I agreed to it. But after my husband passed away, I kept this information to myself. I was worried that if I mentioned it, Emma would accuse me of being interested in the family money. "I have work to do. Could you please leave?" I told Emma that if she needed to communicate anything, she should do it through our lawyers. I had sought advice from our company's legal counsel. I called security and had Emma escorted out of the company premises. I made it clear she wasn't welcome back. Emma resisted, but when I threatened to call the police, she left quietly. After that, she tried to contact me many times, but I ignored her completely. Her attempts to claim our fortune only led to complaints to our lawyer. Our company wasn't going under, and Emma couldn't understand why. She argued that if it went bankrupt, there should be wealth to share. But the company had been handed over to a successor before Benjamin passed away, so there was nothing left for Emma to claim. As for the family's properties, they had already been settled in the divorce before Benjamin's death. Our lawyer patiently explained that Emma had no right to any of it. Our lawyer, somewhat frustrated, told us that Emma had been persistent. Emma had thought she was entitled to a share of the will and had recklessly run up debt on her credit card. Now she was stuck paying it off, working multiple part-time jobs from morning till night. However, her financial problems were not my concern. Emma was 10 years younger than Benjamin. They had married when she was 25, and now she was 55. They had been married for almost 30 years, so Emma was entitled to survivor benefits from Benjamin's Social Security taxes even after their divorce. However, she wouldn't get these benefits until she turned 60, which was still 5 years away. Plus, she needed to have filed a claim for a division of the pension within 2 years of the divorce. I wasn't sure if Emma knew this, nor did I intend to tell her. I felt no sympathy or obligation to worry about Emma's well-being. Now I live in a home I once shared with my mom, Benjamin, and my husband. My days pass calmly and peacefully. Sometimes I remember my husband and Benjamin and smile, and sometimes tears come, but remembering their warm smiles, I want to live each day with a smile on my face too.
"What's this? Tastes awful. If I eat this, I'll feel sick." Megan chuckled, poking fun at the dish I made. I had tried it earlier and it seemed fine to me. Megan was just being picky. Andy and I had spent 3 days getting ready for this dinner. We were thrilled when we heard that our eldest son and his wife were coming over. Looking back, Andy and I felt silly for getting our hopes up. Megan's rude behavior and Benny just going along with her wore us out. We felt distant from them. Keeping a relationship with Megan felt impossible. Maybe we need to set some clear rules with her before I talk to Megan about it. Andy reached for the dish. "I'm Katie, a 70-something homemaker living with Andy. We have a son, Benny. He graduated from a fancy college, got a job in a big company, and moved to Boston. 2 years back, he said he was getting hitched. The girl he introduced as his fiancée seemed nice. Benny said after the wedding, they'd move closer to us and wanted to bond. especially Megan. We were cool with it, but wondered about Megan. Benny assured us she was thrilled and wanted to get close to us. So we were on board with their plan. Around 2 months after tying the knot, Benny and Megan stuck to their word and relocated close to us. We were looking forward to bonding with Benny and getting to know Megan better, but reality hit us hard. Benny switched from his main office to a branch in our town, thinking it'd work out fine, but life wasn't as easy. The issue was Megan's spending habits. Even when Benny was earning well at headquarters, Megan had a habit of overspending. And when Benny's paycheck took a slight hit after the transfer, Megan's spending didn't slow down. It actually got worse. No matter how much Benny brought in, Megan used up most of it, leaving them in a tough spot. Ben was never one to fuss over his looks and lived a simple life. Benny was always hustling to earn more and rarely had time to visit us. Megan wasn't around much either, making their move nearby seem pointless. Even though they were close by, we hardly ever saw them. Benny was always caught up in work, and we were hesitant to directly reach out to Megan. It felt heartbreaking knowing Benny was going through a tough time. Despite his struggles, we tried to help by sending them $1,000 every month. We wished we could give more, but with Andy retired and us living on a pension, it was all we could manage. Every time we sent money, Benny would express his gratitude, but his voice sounded weary, which pained us deeply. We wanted to support him as his parents, so we decided to help in any small way we could. On our days off, we'd spend time with him, take him shopping, and treat him to a meal. When Benny and Megan were away, we cleaned their house for them. We knew these gestures couldn't solve all of Benny's problems, but doing something felt better than doing nothing. 2 years went by, and Benny's situation didn't improve. Seeing him struggle, we felt compelled to do something. We came up with a plan to invite Benny and Megan over for a meal. Knowing Megan might not accept a simple dinner invitation, we decided to go all out and prepare a lavish feast to tempt them. When I suggested this to Andy, he hesitated because he wasn't confident in his cooking skills, but he took the initiative and even went out to buy the ingredients. To our delight, the promise of a feast hit the trick, and both Benny and Megan agreed to come over for 3 days and nights. Andy and I busied ourselves with preparing the meal while Benny and Megan showed up at our doorstep in the afternoon. They appeared to unwind, shedding the stresses of their daily lives. Benny seemed particularly worn out, prompting us to offer him our bedroom to rest. As Benny headed off to rest, Megan, seemingly unaware of our cooking efforts, lounged on the sofa, engrossed in the TV. Suddenly, she strolled into the kitchen and bluntly questioned, "Why are you putting in so much effort?" Taken aback by her abrupt inquiry, we were unable to respond before she continued, "Seriously, what's the point? Are you enjoying this? If you have spare time, why not find work and make some money? Retirement must be tough, huh?" Her mocking laughter filled the room. I stepped forward. "Isn't it impolite to speak like that when you're invited for a meal? Where's your respect for your in-laws? A little decency wouldn't hurt." Megan's face flushed red. "Are you trying to pick a fight with me? Do you think your words don't sting?" I had no intention of starting a confrontation. I simply wanted her to exhibit basic manners. However, seeing her twist my words and become defensive left me speechless. Megan, apparently satisfied with her outburst, returned to the living room. Andy looked dismayed, but we had dinner preparations to focus on, so we tried to regroup. Suddenly, from the hallway, we heard Megan's voice escalating. "Why are you always against me? Can't you support me just once? I'm your wife." Alarmed, we hurried out to see what was going on. Megan stood by the bedroom door, and Benny, who should have been resting, was there too. "Why won't you stand by me? Why are you siding with your parents?" Megan shouted, clutching Benny's shirt. Sensing the situation spiraling out of control, we intervened. "Let's calm down. What's happening here?" Andy held Megan back, while I approached Benny to understand what was going on. Weary, Benny recounted what had occurred. He had been trying to get some rest in the bedroom after a long day at work, but was startled awake by a slamming door. Upon investigating, he found Megan in a state of fury. She vented about feeling harassed and labeled me as the problem. Benny was bewildered and overwhelmed. In her heightened emotions, Megan misinterpreted Benny's silence as taking our side, and she began questioning his loyalty as her husband. Benny, still groggy from sleep, struggled to comprehend the situation and felt powerless. Megan's anger only escalated upon seeing Benny's confusion, leaving him caught in the middle and visibly drained. I confronted Megan, saying, "It's not okay to wake up and yell at your exhausted husband. Do you understand how strange you're acting?" Megan, perhaps feeling trapped, mumbled a half-hearted apology, but her eyes showed no remorse. Despite the tension, we gathered around the table for dinner. We had prepared ribeye steaks and fresh seafood from the local market, trying to offer the best. Benny seemed to appreciate it, but Megan, glancing at the spread, made a sarcastic remark, "Just because you serve this doesn't mean I'll overlook the harassment." It was disheartening to hear after all our efforts. Benny tried to lighten the mood with different topics, but Megan shut down each attempt with icy comments. I told her, "You need to change your attitude," but she simply ignored me. The TV was off, so I knew she heard me. Honestly, I felt dejected realizing that she deliberately ignored me. Feeling discouraged, Andy tried to comfort me. We managed to say grace before the meal, but after Megan tasted the dish, she exclaimed, "What's this disgusting mess? I'll get sick from eating this." She laughed mockingly, leaving me speechless at her cruelty. But she didn't stop there. "You're deliberately trying to make me sick with this food, aren't you? Going to such extremes just to torment me. You're truly wicked, mother-in-law." Her words dripped with disdain, causing my hands to tremble with anger. Why must we endure this? How can Megan treat others so cruelly? Seeing Benny so exhausted, why doesn't she feel any inclination to help? Why does she brush off our kindness? I had so much I wanted to express to Megan, but the right words eluded me. However, I couldn't let her behavior continue unchecked. Sensing my frustration, Andy reached for his plate. I've remained silent until now, but I've reached my limit. Andy's usually calm demeanor transformed into something intimidating when he was angry. It had been a long time since I'd seen him so upset. With his anger still simmering, Andy declared, "I'm severing ties with you. Leave immediately." Andy's voice boomed as he confronted Megan. Even Megan appeared startled, her face paling. "What's this, father-in-law? How could you say such things to your daughter-in-law? Do you find joy in causing trouble? I never imagined you, father-in-law, would stoop so low," she shot back, tears welling in her eyes. But despite Megan's protests, Andy stood firm. "I don't care if you call it harassment. I can't consider you family anymore. Leave." Andy's words made Megan realize the severity of the situation. "Fine, I'll go. From now on, I want nothing to do with you or mother-in-law. You'll regret this," she declared, packing her belongings and departing. I asked Benny if he wanted to go after her, but he seemed resigned. "It doesn't matter," he muttered, focusing on his meal. So we opted to let her go, fearing another confrontation if Benny followed her home. We decided he would stay the night. Benny appeared relieved, preferring not to face Megan at that moment. For the first time in ages, we enjoyed some genuine family time. We swapped stories, aired grievances about Megan, and even camped out in the living room, reminiscing about old times. The cramped couch reminded me how much Benny had grown. However, our peace was short-lived. The next morning, the doorbell rang, jolting us awake. As anticipated, it was Megan. Scanning the room, I confirmed it was indeed Megan at the door. As Benny, Andy, and I debated our next move, the door was pounded loudly. "Mother-in-law, I know you're in there. Where's Benny?" "He's here, isn't he? Let him out." Megan's words filled me with dread. Handing Benny over to her now could only make things worse. So we agreed to let Megan in and have a conversation. As soon as the door opened, Megan barged in, fixing me with a hostile glare. "You think you can steal someone's husband? That's outrageous," she yelled, her anger palpable. But her accusations no longer affected me. "That's a harsh way to put it. We simply offer him a place to stay because of the way you've been treating him. He made the choice, not me. Blaming me is unfair, don't you think?" Megan's face blushed crimson. You're the worst mother-in-law and father-in-law for allowing this behavior. Stay away from us forever. Her words held no sway over us. Andy and I were prepared to sever ties with Megan. Tension hung thick in the air until Benny's words changed everything. I can't do this anymore. Let's get a divorce. Benny's words stunned Megan, her face still flushed with anger. Divorce? Seriously? You're choosing your parents over me? Her tone softened, and she pleaded with Benny, her eyes filled with desperation. But Benny stood firm. A wife who neglects her responsibilities and parties constantly versus my parents, who've always been there for me. The choice is obvious. Megan, still unconvinced, argued, they're just manipulating you. Once they have you, they'll abandon you too. Faceless accusations. We never abandoned Benny, but Megan, eager to portray us as villains, hysterically shouted, "You're trying to take Benny away from me. Do you hate me that much?" At this point, it was unclear how to calm her down. Then, unexpectedly, Benny slapped Megan across the face. The room fell silent, shocked. Megan struggled to comprehend what had just happened. You've not only been a burden to me, but also to my parents. Aren't you ashamed? I hoped you'd come to your senses, but I was wrong. Please don't say such things. I love you, please reconsider. My decision is final. From now on, we're strangers. Don't ever call yourself my wife again. Megan looked defeated. No one reached out to her. Eventually, she left, realizing there was no point in arguing. In the following days, Benny stayed with us as he initiated the divorce proceedings, which were recently finalized. Megan was hesitant to sign the papers, so they had to involve lawyers. Fortunately, Benny had evidence of Megan's extravagant spending habits, which helped him secure the divorce. He also sought compensation in court. Due to his deteriorating health from stress and overwork, Benny was unfortunately diagnosed with a lifestyle-related illness. Megan's parents eventually paid the settlement, leaving Benny indebted to them. Megan now works tirelessly day and night to repay them. After the divorce, Benny continued to reside with us for some time. We wanted to give him a reprieve, especially considering all he had endured. Today, Benny has regained his footing and is working diligently as ever. While life may present him with more challenges, we will always be there for him as his parents, offering our unwavering support in every possible way.
Why are you entrusting our newborn baby to my sister every day? My husband's call interrupted my day. His usually calm voice was tinged with unexpected anger. Rapidly, I sought to dispel the misunderstanding. Our daughter is at home, sleeping, I assure him. Surprised, his tone shifted. Really? He exclaimed. Confusion enveloped us both as questions arose. I'll speak with my sister-in-law to uncover the truth, I resolved. I reached out to my sister-in-law, Marissa, and uncovered a startling truth. Let me introduce myself. I'm Linda, married to Bob for 3 years, just a year younger than him. Our joy was recently doubled with the arrival of our daughter Hannah. She's the epitome of cuteness, but being a first-time mom has its challenges. With my parents living far away, I didn't have the luxury of heading back home after childbirth. Since leaving the hospital, I've been navigating this new world solo during the day. I must admit, I've been getting by, largely thanks to Bob's unwavering support. Despite his long work hours, he's always there for Hannah and me, never once complaining. His gentle demeanor eases any parenting stresses I encounter. Whether it's struggling to soothe Hannah to sleep or tending to her cries in the dead of night, his presence has been a lifeline, and I'm immensely grateful for it. So you can imagine my shock when he called, his voice laced with unexpected frustration. Linda. Mom just called me. What's going on? He demanded. Confused, I replied, Your mom? What are you talking about? Why would we leave our newborn with Marissa every day? His mention of Marissa caught me off guard. She's Bob's sister, residing just a short walk away with their parents. Marissa, working from home, also takes care of her mother, making her quite flexible with her time. My husband's critique persisted. Leaving a 3-week-old baby, I couldn't fathom doing that. Marissa hasn't cared for a baby before. I get that you're tired post-birth, but you should have talked to me before entrusting her to Marissa, he expressed, his worry palpable. His distress signaled that this was no ordinary misunderstanding. Wait, I'm lost. Marissa caring for a newborn. Why did your mom call you? Why would I need your consultation? What do you mean? Leaving Hannah with Marissa? Have I been doing that? I countered, utterly bewildered. It's been nearly 2 weeks. Marissa didn't complain, not wanting to strain your relationship, but Mom couldn't stay silent, he clarified. Bob's revelation stunned me. It was a narrative I had no recollection of, with my daughter right beside me. With numerous questions swirling, I prioritized clearing the confusion. Swiftly, I assured him, our daughter's at home, asleep. She's right here with me. Bob's astonishment resurfaced. What do you mean? He inquired. I'm just as confused as you are. Honestly, I've been following the advice to keep newborns indoors, so besides medical appointments, I haven't been anywhere. I haven't even visited your family's house, and it's been a while since Marissa came over after Hannah's birth, I clarified. Then whose baby is Marissa caring for? Bob pondered aloud. I wish I knew. Why would Marissa fabricate looking after our baby? Each question seemed to spiral into another, leaving us both puzzled. As the lunch break chimes sounded through the phone, I made a decision. I need to speak with Marissa. I want to understand why she might concoct such a lie. If there's a misunderstanding and she thinks she's caring for Hannah, that's concerning. I'll also call Mom, I announced. Bob paused before expressing his regret. I'm sorry for doubting you. I was just really worried about Hannah. It's all right. You're concerned about Hannah, aren't you? Besides, when I told you she's right here, you didn't doubt me. You trusted me, I comforted him. After our call ended, I wasted no time dialing my sister-in-law's number. Marissa, do you have a moment? There's something I need to discuss, I started. Linda, I need to talk to you too, Marissa replied. Marissa and Bob are close in age, which is why she's the same age as me despite being my sister-in-law. We've always had a good relationship, even going out together when I was dating Bob. So, it puzzled me why she hadn't mentioned anything about this situation. I couldn't fathom why she would fabricate such a story. Well, now's a good time. Bob just filled me in. Marissa, what's this about you looking after Hannah? I haven't left her with anyone, I questioned, bewildered. Marissa's surprised voice followed, accompanied by the sound of a crying baby. It seemed she was indeed tending to an infant. Listening to Marissa's reaction, a realization dawned on me. Marissa wasn't fabricating anything. She genuinely believed she was caring for Hannah. To dispel her misconception, I began to explain the truth. Hannah's right here with me, fast asleep. I'm really baffled by all of this. But how did you end up with a baby, Marissa? And why do you think it was Hannah? I asked, seeking clarity. Marissa replied, shedding light on the situation. Last week, Dad dropped off a baby with me. He said, Linda seems overwhelmed, so you should assist her with the baby. This revelation left me dumbfounded. Then Marissa disclosed another shocking detail. I was terrified because I've never cared for a baby. I hadn't heard from you, Linda. And when I considered calling you, Dad warned, if you contact Linda, she'll just stress out. Show some consideration for your sister-in-law. I have my own responsibilities, even when I'm at home. It appeared that my father-in-law's deceit initiated this chaos, but the identity of the child Marissa was caring for remained unclear. Thinking that confronting my father-in-law directly might resolve the confusion, I inquired if he was home. Unfortunately, he's out at the moment. Lately, he returns home late in the evening, takes the child Marissa's been tending to, claiming he'll return her to Linda, then leaves again. He usually returns in about 20 to 30 minutes, Marissa explained. Frustrated by my father-in-law's manipulation involving my daughter and me, I felt compelled to address the situation head-on. I understand. I'll discuss this with Bob, but we might visit tonight, I decided before ending the call. I promptly emailed my husband, detailing what I learned from his sister. We should ask Dad directly, came the suggestion. So when Bob returned home, we made our way to my in-laws. Along the journey, Bob recounted his conversation with his mother. Mom was also quite upset to discover that the child she thought was her grandchild wasn't. That's a significant shock, isn't it? I didn't envision Hannah's first family gathering unfolding like this. It's quite a complicated situation, he elaborated. Due to her back issues, his mother hadn't met our daughter yet. I had hoped to introduce Hannah to her once she was ready to venture out after a month. But now, I found myself disheartened that our introduction had to occur amidst such turmoil. Upon reaching my in-laws' home, we found my mother-in-law and sister-in-law both appearing bewildered as we entered. Marissa spoke up. "Bob, Linda, Dad mentioned he would return the child we've been caring for, but he hasn't returned yet." Understanding the situation, Bob intervened. "I see, Mom. Despite the confusion, this is our daughter, Hannah." With that, I brought Hannah closer to my mother-in-law. Upon laying eyes on Hannah, my mother-in-law's expression softened. She's absolutely adorable. She bears a striking resemblance to Bob when he was a baby. I'm thrilled to finally meet her, and Linda, you've done remarkably well. "I'm sorry you've been entangled in all of this," she expressed with sincerity. "It's all right. I'm just as perplexed as everyone else," I responded. Just as I spoke, Marissa chimed in. "I'm baffled too. Who is this child I've been caring for? I don't understand why Dad would lie like this. I've been putting in so much effort, believing it was Hannah. He should consider my feelings too." Marissa's frustration mirrored my own towards our father-in-law. Attempting to lighten the mood, Bob interjected, "But Marissa, you've met Hannah before. You should have noticed it's a different baby." "Well, don't all babies look alike? I thought something was off." But I assumed babies' appearances change quickly. Marissa hastily defended herself. At that moment, our father-in-law returned. "I'm back. Wait, why are Bob and Linda here?" Our father-in-law's panic was palpable. This deception stemmed from him. The rest of us shared disapproving glances, each silently accusing him. Struggling under the tension, our father-in-law began to stutter. "Oh, Linda, it's been some time. What brings you here? Did you forget something?" He attempted to divert attention. Turning to Marissa, he added, "Marissa, what's going on? I asked you to check for forgotten items." I seethed with anger at our father-in-law's manipulation, using mine and my daughter's names in his deceit and then shifting the blame onto Marissa. I instinctively held my daughter closer, feeling the tension radiate through the room. Both my husband and sister-in-law shared the same sentiment, their fists clenched in frustration. It was me who broke the silence, the anger evident in my voice. "Dad, seriously, are you honestly saying that? This is beyond unacceptable even for you." "What do you mean?" My father-in-law seemed startled by the intensity of my tone. My husband and sister-in-law echoed my sentiments, demanding answers. "Dad, explain yourself. Linda has never left Hannah with anyone. Why would you fabricate such a lie? There must be a reason for someone to care for a stranger's newborn, right?" "That's correct. You manipulated me into caring for a child. Who is this baby? I'm terrified, even if it's my nephew's, let alone a stranger's. I won't tolerate it anymore," Marissa interjected with rapid-fire conviction. My father-in-law was speechless, while the three of us continued to glare at him, demanding the truth. However, my mother-in-law's reaction was different. She turned pale, murmuring, "No, it can't be. You're not still involved with her?" Her words left my husband, sister-in-law, and me stunned. My father-in-law began to sweat, feigning innocence. What are you talking about?" he stuttered, attempting to deflect. But my typically calm husband had reached his limit. "Dad, enough with the act. You've been playing dumb all along. Do you think you can deceive us? We know you've been lying about everything. Just come clean." "Wait, Bob, please calm down." I attempted to intervene, but my husband persisted. "Dad, you've been manipulating Linda and Hannah to cover up your deceit, and you owe Marissa an apology. Caring for a newborn is a monumental responsibility, even if it's your own child. Consider how overwhelming it must have been for Marissa, who has never experienced parenthood before." Once he started, my husband couldn't halt his tirade. Despite whatever excuses our father-in-law might conjure, my husband remained steadfast. Perhaps realizing he couldn't evade the truth any longer, my father-in-law spoke softly, and then he confessed to the unbelievable truth. "That child is mine." At his admission, my husband's momentum dissipated, his mouth hanging agape in disbelief. Marissa and I were equally stunned into silence. It was my mother-in-law who shattered the quiet. Her voice quivered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I knew it. You're still involved with her. I was foolish to forgive you before." "Involved with her?" my husband queried, puzzled. In response, our father-in-law's complexion paled even further. Ignoring him, my mother-in-law continued, "He had an affair. It happened around the time you two were getting married, about 3 years ago. He promised me he'd never do it again, and I forgave him. But now, that's why I thought Hannah bore a resemblance to Bob. She's his flesh and blood after all. I thought she was my true grandchild." Unable to contain her emotions any longer, my mother-in-law broke into tears. Witnessing her distress only fueled my anger towards my father-in-law. My husband regained his composure, unleashing his wrath upon our father-in-law. "You're despicable, Dad. You not only deceived us but betrayed Mom twice. How could you stoop so low? I can't fathom that someone like you is our father." Bob's outburst was followed by Marissa's incredulous response. "What do you mean by my child? Are you joking? You had a child with your mistress and left it with me? I can't believe this. How could you do something so despicable? I never want to see your face again." Despite the scathing remarks from his own children, our father-in-law merely chuckled and remarked, "Calm down. There's nothing we can do about what's already happened. The mistress didn't want to marry me or anything like that. She just didn't have any money, so she had to work. In the meantime, I had to take care of the child. I couldn't bear witnessing my father-in-law's callousness." "Enough," I interjected, my voice trembling with anger. "This isn't a laughing matter. A life has been brought into this world. Do you grasp the gravity of that at your age?" My father-in-law seemed taken aback, losing his balance and falling onto the ground. However, instead of offering assistance, Bob and Marissa hurled insults. "You worthless old man, you're no longer our father. I can't even stand to look at you. Get out of our sight," they exclaimed. Even faced with their fury, my father-in-law attempted to downplay the situation, saying, "Don't say such things." My lips tensed as I stared daggers at my father-in-law. "I no longer have the patience to tolerate someone like you. Let's get divorced," I declared firmly. My father-in-law's smile vanished, his face contorting with wrinkles as he became serious. "But didn't you forgive me last time?" he pleaded. However, his attempt at manipulation was futile. "Yes, I forgave you for your infidelity, but I won't tolerate your disrespect any longer," I retorted. "If having you out of our lives brings peace to our home, then so be it. And as for my survival, I'll manage just fine without you," I added. As my father-in-law clung to my mother-in-law's feet, I watched him with disdain. Bob and Marissa mirrored my sentiments, their gazes cold and unwavering. It was evident that everyone in the room had reached their limit with my father-in-law. Marissa erupted in anger. "I'll take care of Mom, so we'll be fine without you. But how do you plan to live? You've always relied on Mom for everything from cooking to laundry." Marissa's words visibly rattled my father-in-law. He turned to my mother-in-law with pleading eyes. "You wouldn't leave me, would you? We spent decades together. You can't imagine life without me, can you?" However, his hopes were swiftly dashed as my mother-in-law shook off his clinging arm. "Stop kidding yourself. How much do you need to degrade people to feel satisfied? Who would want to stay with a cheater like you? I'm filing for divorce right now. If you're so fond of her, why don't you go be with your mistress?" My mother-in-law snapped, her voice firm and resolute. "What? Wait, let's talk. We can fix this. That woman meant nothing to me. You're the only one I love." My father-in-law pleaded, clutching onto my mother-in-law once more, but he was met with another wave of Marissa's fury. "Talking to someone who refuses to acknowledge their mistakes is pointless. We're leaving this place soon, and Mom is coming with us. Until we're gone, stay away from home, Dad. I never want to see you again. Now get out," Marissa demanded, attempting to forcefully escort my father-in-law out. When he refused to budge, Bob had to physically drag him away. "Please wait. Give me another chance, just one more," my father-in-law pleaded until the very end. But his pleas fell on deaf ears as nobody paid him any attention. As Marissa had foreseen, my father-in-law's life spiraled into chaos. Struggling to manage even the simplest tasks, he found himself unable to tolerate the growing clutter and filth in his home. Desperate for assistance, he turned to his mistress, only to be met with rejection at her doorstep. It appeared she had no intention of marrying him either. With no one left to care for the children, his mistress was unable to work, leading to financial strain. She began pressing my father-in-law for alimony, even resorting to legal action to secure child support. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law relocated to an apartment not far from ours. As over a month had passed since Hannah's birth, I started visiting them more frequently, accompanied by Hannah. I maintained my amicable relationship with Marissa, acting as if nothing had changed, and my bond with my mother-in-law remained strong. Moving forward, I'm determined to raise my daughter to the best of my abilities, with the support of my husband, sister-in-law,